your wife gonna get one? Vaccine? Like, like Becky did because she's working there, you know. But she's pretty. So you know, I had it and she was never sick. Well, they say if you've had COVID and you get the shot, you're pretty sick. Well, she was pretty sick, so pretty sure that she had it with no symptoms. You know, when I had it, or before I had it, or at some point, like she had a fever and just really tired, kind of headache for like it lasted about a day and then it was gone.
I talked to Jerry Lawman. He had two. He's 63.
Mom and Dad didn't have any issues.
He said his first shot, nothing. The second one, he was puking for 2 days. He was sick as hell. He had a headache.
Oh, really?
Who's that? Jerry Lawman. Well, Jerry Lawman got his shot.
Oh. I just, nothing until the second one. Then the second day I wanted to sleep.
Oh, so it did affect you a little bit. That's what Mom said too. She was tired after the second one. Yeah.
Jerry said they told him to go home, take 2 aspirin, and sit down.
Well, that's the problem. You know, Becky said she signed me up for it. I'm like, really? What am I going to do with work? I can't. I can't miss work going in the spring, you know.
Well, then you better do it now, so we still have to start yet. But yeah.
I don't, no, not too bad. No, not like when they saw him go. That one was actually cracked up on one side.
I'm rebuilding my tracks for the skid loader.
What's that?
I'm rebuilding the tracks. That's a fun job.
Oh, really?
Just pulling all those bolts out and putting all new bolts in. They're just about cut through, you know?
What kind of skid loader is it?
Oh, it's logger tracks. The skid loader don't matter. $800 with bolts.
Really?
216 of them.
Wow.
But they're,
Tracks over wheels or?
yeah.
So yeah, whenever they go around the blue grooving, they ain't gonna come out there.
It's 8 o'clock.
It's 8:05 this morning.
Oh, 8:05?
Yeah. 8's when that closes.
That's right.
The streaming is working tonight. So Paula has it, my angle, George,
George. Oh, George. Yeah.
and Barb. So
Okay.
whether
I pushed the button and it's green, so I think I'm okay.
I think it is.
You said that
Very
it's
make sure
working?
you turn your microphone on.
What did you do?
You like those California school there? You
No,
didn't
no.
hear about that?
Anything serious from last night or just
Everything shut off.
decided to work there?
Well, he thinks
Yeah.
he had the link that I had
The whole,
wasn't the right,
I think it was the Los Angeles school.
you know, and it's about this long.
They were talking,
Yeah.
you know, it's babysitting a bunch of babysitters. He's a bunch of effing babies.
Talking about the kids?
Dad and their parents.
Oh, really?
The whole works was dying 2 days later. They had no school board.
Yeah?
No, I don't know how. I can look to see if there's something to do.
Are you able to get parts when people got to order them, or are you having the 3-month thing?
It's been okay, but it's getting worse. They said with, March, April, May, June, July, when the whole world was shut down, nothing was getting made, and it didn't really affect things, through fall, but it is now.
We bought traded for a different brush cat. It's and it comes with pads on it, but our old one had rollers, and so we ordered a set of rollers last fall and we got a brush cat. They probably won't be here for another 2 or 3 months.
Still not in.
That's
You know-
Bobcat. Bobcat ain't that small.
I mean, there's filters actually are starting to get harder to get. And there's it hasn't been too bad, but there's plenty of back ordered things.
We're talking fertilizer.
Oh, really?
Two more minutes?
You're in charge.
Hey, Gloria. So Becky was talking to her mom just before. They put their annual meeting on until June.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she just texted. They had a short meeting tonight, and they called it to order, and they continue till June.
You can do that.
Yeah.
It gets to be kind of a hassle.
Well, I think we should start.
Yeah.
Let's call the meeting to order by first saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. We have new mics, so we're getting used to them. But welcome for coming. And I guess the first order of business is the election of a moderator. I call for nominations from the floor.
I nominate Dale.
Second.
Any others? Okay, it's been a motion made and seconded to have Dale Lorenz be moderator. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Dale?
Wherever you're comfortable, Dale. Maybe you want to
It
sit
should be
there.
ready. It should be ready to go.
Right here.
Okay. Okay, well, first item on our agenda now is reading of last year's minutes.
Okay. The annual meeting of the Woodland Township was held at 8:05 p.m. on March 10th, 2020 at the Woodland Township Hall. Clerk Gloria Janakula called the meeting to order. The Pledge of Allegiance was recited by approximately 13 people present. A motion was made by Jean Janakula and seconded by Barry Powak to nominate Dale Lorenz to be moderator. Dale Lorenz was approved to be moderator by a voice vote. The minutes of the last annual meeting on March 12, 2019 were read by the clerk. Motion to accept the minutes as read was made by Ron Brohl and seconded by Greg Brohl, approved on a voice vote. Treasurer's report. Treasurer Paula Leving was unable to be present, thus Jean Janakula gave the treasurer's report. Janakula pointed out on the annual report handout the balances of each fund and bank balances. He noted that the capital fund is a holding spot for annexation funds. The ending balance or total cash on hand as of December 31st, 2019 was $429,695.39. Motion was made by Rodney Dummian and seconded by Ron Brohl to approve the treasurer's report. Motion carried on a voice vote. Fire contract approval. Jean Janakula stated, as had been done at annual meetings for approximately 40 years, the board is asking to continue to allow supervisors to have the right to contract, collect, and negotiate contracts for fire protection with the 5 different fire departments that serve the township. Each fire department has a different cost per unit. For 2020, the cost of each fire department unit is Howard Lake, $105.70, Montrose, $150, Watertown, $183.95, Waverly, $150, and Winsted, $152. Motion was made by Paul Nathan and seconded by Dan Demian to allow township supervisors for another year the right to negotiate the individual fire contracts. Motion carried on a voice vote. Board report. Board members reported the following. Gravel, another year that was not conducive to getting our gravel crushed per contract. Only 15,000 yards of the 28,500 yard contract were crushed. Thus, 81,000 we had intended on spending in 2019 will be deferred to 2020. Township has negotiated to have the remaining 13,500 yards of its 2019 contract to be crushed in 2020 at the same price, plus a 2020 contract for additional approximately 5,000 yards at the same price. Township has about 40,000 yards stockpiled. Approximately 8,000 yards are put on township roads each year. Culverts. Seems as it's a non-stop in need to replace culverts. Several were replaced last year, including one alongside a natural gas line on 70th Street. At least 4 more culverts are on the list to be replaced in 2020. Employee Jeff Hilders and Ken Reinhardt are employees, looking for a part-time person when Ken Reinhardt is gone and to help with graveling. 60th Street Bridge. After some challenges this past year, the large bridge on 70th Street was completed. Road is safe now. Some paperwork remains. Annexation. Woodland received annexation funds this past year and in January. Like what was done in the past, the $8,000 of annexation monies has been placed in the capital expense fund. Equipment. The hours and miles that are on our major equipment were reported. No replacements are planned for major pieces of equipment. Plans are to keep the equipment until have a major costly breakdown and then replace. Replacement cost today for a new grader is $345,765, less trade-in value of $54,000 for a to-boot cost of $291,765. A 2019 Mack truck with box is $218,701, and a new payloader is $204,940, less trade-in value of $65,000 for a to-boot cost of $139,940. Some minor equipment changes were made in 2019 by upgrading a Harley rake for a to-boot cost of $5,781, and per plan of trading every 2 years, a new mower was purchased for a to-boot cost of $2,250. Recycling. Cleanup Recycling Day is set for Saturday, September 12th. For the past several months, Township is negotiating with Randy's Sanitation for recycle pickup. Woodland's 5-year contract for $3.48 per month per household ends in May. Township is working on a 2-year contract at $5.75. Prices as high as $8 were seen. Demand for recycled products has dropped in value because of China not accepting as much product as it had in the past. Board will revisit this issue next year's annual meeting and may have a special meeting during the 2021 on this matter. Dust control. Woodland will be replacing dust control on roads and supplying for individuals who wish to purchase. To date, have not received prices. Election. A presidential primary was held. 78 voted in the precinct plus 5 absentee. New tabulating machines were used. The county leases the machines to the township for an annual maintenance cost of $400 per year. The setting of the levies. Each fund was handled separately. General revenue. Board recommended increasing general revenue funds from $3,500, mainly due to the added cost of recycling. Motion was made by Greg Broll and seconded by Ron Bowl to increase general revenue fund levy by $3,500 for a total amount of $40,000. Motion carried on a voice vote. Road and Bridge. Board recommended increasing road and bridge funds by $11,500 due to gravel purchase and ongoing culvert repairs. Motion was made by Rodney Demian and seconded by Ron Roll to increase the road and bridge fund by $11,500 for a total of $250,000. Motion carried on a voice vote. New equipment. Board recommended increasing new equipment by $12,000 so that there would be funds in the account if any major piece of equipment needed to be replaced. After discussion, a motion was made by Gene Janakula and seconded by Rodney Demian to increase the new equipment levy by $10,000 for a total of $65,000. Motion carried on a voice vote. Capital expense. Board recommended keeping the capital expense fund at zero. Motion was made by Dan Yemin and Gene Janakula to keep the capital expense fund the same at $0. Motion carried on a voice vote. Total levy for 2021 is $355,000. Other business questions were asked concerning the 70th Street east of County Road 8, which is a City of Waverly Road per annexation agreement from 2004. City of Waverly does not want to spend any money on this section of road. Comments were made on old records found in the courthouse concerning ditch 31. Township will be taking written bids for approximately 10 acres of cropland. Bids need to be submitted by March 28, 2020. Next year's meeting. Gene Janakula made a motion to set next year's annual meeting for March 9th, 2021 at 8:05 p.m. Dan Demian's second motion. Motion passed on a voice vote. Election results. 30 people voted. Gene Janakula was elected supervisor for a 3-year term, receiving 30 votes. Gloria Janakula was elected clerk for a 2-year term, receiving 30 votes. A motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:33 p.m. was made by Dan Demian and seconded by Barry Powak. Motion carried on a voice vote.
Are there any changes anybody wants to make to the?
Major culvert on 70th or 60th?
Yes, Gloria, you said 70th, but it's 60th.
Okay,
You're right, Kenny.
that's right.
Yep.
Okay.
At least that's what you said. I don't know what's there. But.
Yep, I think I read it as 70th.
Yep.
It should be 60th. Okay, thank you.
If not, I will, if there's nothing else, I will accept a motion to approve this.
Second.
Okay, who moved?
Ken.
Kim, okay. And then you.
Okay. Now, we're ready for the treasurer's report. Looks like Gene is filling in again this year.
Yes, Paula is in Florida, so. All you hopefully have an annual report. Because then if you turn to the second page, that's where I'm going to start. And I'll give you the balance and all the funds that are printed there. General fund, $25,040.09. Road and bridge, $63,079.52. Town roads, $63.50. Fire due fund, $35,558.97. Cat 40 fund, $1,204.67. Capital expense, $11,640. New equipment, $208,000. $348.30, with a total balance in all funds of $344,935.05. Now, if you turn to the front page, I'll start at the top. And the bank balance on January 1, 2020 was $431,566.83. Outstanding checks from 2020 is $3,221.72. And the bank balance on December 31st of 2020 is $348,156.77, which leaves us an all fund balance on December 31st of 2020 of $344,935.05, which matches what was on the previous page that we just went through. So it balances. Does anybody have any questions? I'll sure give it a try to answer them. If not, we need an approval.
Yep. There's no questions. I'll accept the motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented. Do I have a second? There we got a second. Motion has been made and seconded. We have a voice vote here. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay. I guess the next thing that we've got on here is going to be the fire contract, and we'll leave that up to Gene to make his.
Those of you who have been at the annual meetings in past years will recognize this particular motion that we need to have generated to approve fire contracts. And what that means is you're approving that the township collects the money that goes to the fire departments in each given town, which is 5 different departments. This came about, I noticed in the minutes from last year I had said 40 years ago, but I believe it's closer to 50 or 55 years ago, because the fire departments were going around and collecting from everybody $5 at a time, and they'd have to get somebody home, make sure everybody was home if they weren't. And in that process, they missed a lot of people. They just didn't pay because they weren't asked. But because the township has the ability of going through the tax roll, we don't miss anybody. So they have asked us to collect that money, and then they are reimbursed from us twice a year for the fire contracts. Well, what we need from you is a motion saying that you approve us doing that for this coming year, because that has to be renewed every year.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can I ask a question about the fire pricing and the contract?
Why, sure.
Okay, so there was different prices for the 5 departments. I was just wondering if there was any explanation for our Watertown being $30 higher than the other 4.
Yes, I can answer that.
Okay.
And it might sound a little harsh, but not all the departments are the same. Their responsibilities aren't necessarily the same. Where there's higher buildings in a house in a city, so they need a ladder truck. They have sometimes just better standards of what they expect of their equipment. But I will say this, that we are very fortunate that the 5 fire departments that we have here, even though they're different dollars, They are very efficient, and they are very good at what they do. And this past year has really tested them to the limit. So I have to give them praise. And Barry sits on a couple fire boards, Dan sits on one, and I sit on one or two. And it's a process, Mike, that is very efficient. They just don't go out and buy a nice new shiny truck because they want one. They can't do that anymore. 40 years ago they could, but not anymore.
Thanks for clarifying. I was just, I guess, wondering, and you answered, if that price reflects the resources that they have, or if we're paying extra because geographically we're further from Watertown. But you answered that, so thank you.
Yep.
A question along that same line. You gave the prices for the fire at per unit, like $150 per unit. Is that per homestead, or what is that?
Yes, that is per home.
Okay.
Okay? If it has been Woodland's policy for, again, 50 years, that the bare land, which is quite valuable in Woodland, we don't assess a price on it, because the land can only burn so far, right? It can't go below ground. So
Oh, if you got a peak.
you had to bring that one up. But yeah, you don't want a peat fire, but that can happen too. But we don't have any fire departments that are charging for just land. There's an example of it's been going on for a lot of years, but the city of Winsted and the Winsted Fire Department, in the city of Winsted, if you have a home, that's one unit. But if you have an apartment house, that is broken down to every 2 apartments is 1 unit, because it's all one building. So it's really quite fair.
And then the distance doesn't have anything to do with it. I guess
Yeah.
maybe I'm not aware, but it seems like most of Woodland would be Waverly and Montrose.
Yeah, it's split up.
The first call.
The distance, as far as insurance and what it costs you, once you leave the city limits, the price, no matter how far you go, is the same. But the city, if you are in the city, the insurance will give them like a 10% cut on the insurance. Don't use my number of 10%, but it's something like that.
Just a little to expand on Ken, there's a fire service area that they have these lines on the map that each department, they don't cross the line unless it's mutual aid. So Watertown will have a line that they'll respond to, and I'm sure that the township's got the map of what that service area is, but that's how it's divided.
Yep. And Mike, that particular map, there is a map behind the 911 call center, behind the people that are doing it, and they're all on there. And they can't jump from one to the other except for mutual aid. Because what happened originally is every fire department wanted to grab somebody so that they got more income. Well, you know how that went. So, but in Woodland's case, in order for that map to be changed, the board has to approve it here, that change. Not that it can't happen. Any other questions?
But the assessments, everybody in Winston pays the same. It don't matter what township you're in, what county you're in. If you're in Winston Fire District, you're paying 156. It don't matter where you're at. If you're in, and same way, if you're in Watertown, everybody pays 187, no matter where you live in Watertown, if you're in their fire district.
And Barry, you were using the 2021 figures have
Yeah.
changed a little bit.
Yeah, they went up a little.
I can read it for the people. Howard Lake is 117, Montrose is 150, Watertown's 187.40, Waverly's 150, and Winstead's 156 for 2021.
Dale, we should have a motion.
Yeah. We need a motion out there.
I'll make a motion
To
to
let-
accept the fire contract.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to allow the supervisors to set up their fire protection contracts. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay. Next on our agenda is the board reports.
Okay, and I'll start on that. All of us have been affected by COVID, including the township. We held every meeting last year after the annual meeting until February. We held via Zoom. We received $29,050 in grant money. The monies needed to be spent on COVID-related items. It could not have been in a budget prior to 2020, and it needed to be spent by November of 2020. Where Woodland did with their $29,000 is food shelves received $6,885. Administrative of this, the extra time, was $2,261. Under public health, we had election supplies. There was added booths, and the one that you probably noticed the most is the sidewalk around the building. Then we've improved the telework, which is for $10,800. And if you noticed, we have the microphones. It was purchasing Zoom. We have speakers. We are on camera. It's being live streamed. And then there was the PPE products, the hand sanitizers, was about $913. So that's how we used the $29,000 in grant money. Any questions on that? Okay.
I guess I'm next. We did get our gravel crush last year finally. We did 28,000 yards, a little over. We got about 40,000 stockpiled, and we haul about 8,000 yards on the roads. But we hire a trucking company now to haul about 3,500 of it. We're working on another contract for 16,000 yards this year, but it's going to be 30 cents a yard higher. We already know that. And then culverts, Jeff gave us a list last time how many culverts we got to fix. Nice guy there, Jeff. And everybody knows we still have Jeff and Ken as our maintenance guys, so. Ken stuck around this year because he couldn't go down south for the winter. And of course, this year we don't get any snow, so good year to stay around. And that's really about it for what I have to say.
I was going to just talk about the equipment at Woodland Township. New purchases this year. We did get a new lawnmower for the area here at a purchase price of $8,000. The equipment that the township has is a grader. The grader has 7,598 hours on it. Last year we put about 320 hours on the grader. Then we have a 95 Blue Mac truck with 312,000 miles, put on 6,000 miles this last year. Then the White Mac has 189,000 miles on it, and we put about 10,000 on this last year. Then we have a 2013 Ford pickup with 41,921 miles. We put around 4,600 miles on that. The payloader has 3,100 hours on it. We put about 200 on it last year. Then we have a tractor. It has 648 hours, and we put about 256 on last year. There's a generator in the shop, and then the lawnmower has 10 hours on it. The grader, at this point, we still have no plans of getting rid of it. We're just gonna keep going with it. This year, the grader may need some new tires on it. The cost of tires will be roughly around $9,000. Yeah, and I think that's about all with equipment. Is there any questions about the equipment at all?
I remember at one time or something, maybe we were just talking in the shop, there was a refurbish auction where they would take your machine and basically rebuild it from top to bottom.
For the,
The Caterpillar brand.
okay,
I don't know if that'd be something that needs to be at least put on the list to someday look at it, get a price,
for the grader, you're saying?
the grader or the loader or both.
I guess, I don't know, Gene, do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm aware of that program used to be, but I don't know, Ken, if it's still available, but it's something we can check into for next year. We'll look into it if it still is. What we're doing now, just so everybody knows, a new grader like ours is $344,000. Gloria, you have the number?
352,000.
Yeah. And our old grader, they would allow 40,000 in trade. So we're down to a value on this grader out here of 40,000. So it's to the point now where the board feels it's in fine mechanical condition. Jeff's happy with the work and how it does it. So we just aren't going to spend any money on it. We're going to use it. And we think there's another 10,000? Yeah. If we get lucky. So, and that's why we have asked and will be asking to keep the levy for the new equipment fund up. In case one of these all of a sudden does have a major breakdown, if it's only worth 40,000, we aren't going to spend 100 on it. We would scrap it out because that's about what it's worth. But it's been working good, and we're going to go down that path unless one in the audience really wants to see a new shiny grader out here for $350,000. But at this point, the board's not recommending that.
I'm not sure exactly where I saw it, but it looked back in some of these pages there was a transfer from equipment fund to general fund. Did they give too high, so they take it out, or why put so much in the first place?
No, we were running short in the general fund basically, and we try to keep our funds fairly well balanced. We don't want to see one all of a sudden go completely out of whack, and that's up to the discretion of the board. So it isn't like any money's disappearing.
Right, no, I
Just-
thought it was transferred.
Yep. So that has happened in years past.
We're good.
Any discussion on replacing the truck?
Well, at this point, kind of to go along with Gene just said, everything is in good working condition, and what their values are, we're just going to keep running them at this point.
I think you're well aware of the new trucks and the problems that they have, Ken, so we're far better off with the old ones and just keeping them maintained. But if all of a sudden something drastic happens and we have to replace one, we wouldn't hesitate doing it either. Do we have those covered?
Yep, you're up now.
I don't remember who was taking recycling and dust control.
I opted out,
Okay,
remember?
I think you did.
I delegated it.
Oh, okay. Well, I can go over that too. I thought it was Gene, sorry. So as far as recycling, our recycling contract with Randy Sanitation is for 2 years, ending April 30th, 2022 for $5.75. This last year, Randy's was bought by Republic in December of 2020. Our cleanup recycling day is set for September 11th. I guess going forward for recycling, we'll have to make some decisions because they keep wanting to raise the prices on that. Like I said, we're in contract till 2022, so next year we may need to visit that again and make some decisions. You know, maybe by then recycling prices will have gone up and it'll be more valuable to them and we get better numbers, but if they keep getting raised, you may have to look elsewhere or make some decisions. The next thing I had was dust control. We'll be putting dust control on roads and supplying for individuals who wish to purchase it. We'll continue to monitor if dust control is extending the life of the gravel. Pricing for individuals will be the same as last year. It's $60 per 100 feet. Dust control going by a resident's house obviously is for dust. We do about 7 miles of road where we put dust control on. The reason for that is, one, it's a lot less maintenance. The roads hold together much better. Two, which we're trying to decide if we use less gravel. We really don't have an answer for that yet, so we're trying to monitor that to figure that out. But we definitely have less road maintenance when there's dust control on the roads. Any questions about either of those?
The homeowner was 60 cents.
$60 per 100 feet.
Okay, what is the township cost? Does the township subsidize that, or that's the?
For the rest of the roads, it's within our budget.
Is it the same price? Is that 60 cents per 100?
60 cents covers
$60.
our maintenance cost and the administrative cost, the $60 per 100 feet. No, it doesn't cost that much for the product, but by the time you put it on, that's
How much is it a mile? Do you remember? Like when we're putting it on our regular roads?
2,700, I think. It depends on the price. We were able to get
$2,740 a mile.
Yeah. So
That's what, it went down for this year. It's 86 cents now instead of 96.
right.
It's 99. It's 13 cents less this year. By going with that other company.
But yeah, when we do it at a resident's place, it's $60 for 100 feet.
And that's a wash.
Right, that's
Yes,
our goal.
correct.
It's not subsidizing, and they're not.
No,
Correct. I think that's about it that I had for reports.
I just have a comment on Dan's report. We just should put in the minutes, Gloria, that next year at this annual meeting, we're going to bring up recycling, whether we're going to continue to have it in the township. We're going to have some input from the public because it's gotten really priced beyond what we think it should be. So we just don't want to go out and spend people's money on recycling. I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it because I think right now the recycling is just going in the garbage anyway that they're collecting. I don't think it's going anyplace, but Mike might have a little more insight on that later. But
What is that $5.40? Is that per month, per bi-weekly, or what?
Per month.
Per month, per resident. So 1 month, I'm just quickly, in February, we paid $2,438 that month for recycling. So we're, $2,500 a month times 12 months, it's getting to be.
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's we pay $2,500 a month. Right.
But I guess with what you said, Gene, I've never seen individual recycling. I can choose who I want to pick my garbage up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody that says get
plus the company that had it, I don't know how the new ones are going to be, but if someone doesn't use the recycling, whether it's for a week or they never use it, Woodland Township still pays for that household recycling, even though there isn't any recycling being picked up. That's the only contract they would sign. But when this first came out, it was a lot more reasonable, so we could live with it. But it's gotten out of hand, and now that they're sold out, we just have to bring it up next year and decide what we want to do.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Is there a figure somewhere about how many households are or aren't using it since we're getting paid, since we're paying either way?
Gloria's got a feel for that.
Right. I fill out a report every quarter, and then there's a little bit of grant money that comes back. I'm trying to think. Right now, I think it's over. I'll get the figures for you. If it's over 50% use it. But what's happened is there's not as much recyclable material, or it's all plastic, which doesn't. It goes by poundage. So plastic doesn't weigh much. So, but
Well, it might be something to note for next year, so if we put in for this year what it is compared to a year from now.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll have a little more information for you because we didn't think we could answer it this year because the new company coming on. But the big thing I think we need to keep our eyes open is where this recycling is really going now. Is it really getting recycled and getting made into furniture? Or is it going into the garbage, going into the pile down at McLeod County?
I think
I think we got it.
Anything else?
No, I think set the levy. I think.
Recycling was the last one, and now we're into setting the levies for 2021. We'll take them individually. General revenue. Last year was $40,000. The board is recommending a zero change. So their recommendation would be for $40,000 for general revenue for this coming year. Do I have a motion to accept that?
Ken?
Second.
Dan?
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to set the general revenue levy at $40,000 for this year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, road and bridge. Last year was $250,000. The board is recommending a $0 change. They're recommending $250,000 for the coming year here, 21. Do I have a motion to accept that?
Question first, is that going to be adequate with the fact that the gravel price went up and that there's several more culverts, it sounds like, this year? Is that going to be adequate?
It was the board's intent to not change our budget because of the COVID problems that is in the country, state, Woodland, and all our taxpayers. So we just weren't going to raise anybody's taxes this year, is what we had decided, if you approve it. And to answer your question is, I believe we can figure it out. Do you have a motion on that?
No, not yet.
I'll make a motion to.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to set the road and bridge levy for the coming year at $250,000. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Our new equipment fund. Last year it was set at $65,000. The board is recommending no change. So their recommendation for the coming year will be $65,000 for the new equipment fund. Do I hear a motion on that?
Make a motion to that effect.
Second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion is carried. Okay. Capital expense, we were at 0 last year. The board is recommending a 0 for this year. Do I have,
Could you explain to me what capital expense is? I don't understand that one.
It's the building.
Building.
When they put the building up, they had the capital expense, and then she said it's easier to leave it in than try to take them off, so.
Say all of a sudden we want to build a shed for the gravel or something.
Right, okay. Is there usually some expense to any building, or get it out of general or something if we need new carpet or whatever?
If it's a situation where it's a special need, no, we put it in a capital expense fund. Because we'd want to know a year or two ahead of time before we do it. Because it's probably going to be a lot of money, which we have no plans of adding or subtracting here. This is quite adequate.
now, if you wouldn't have got the $29,000 last year, which part of it was used to put the sidewalk around, that would have been an improvement that would have come out of
Yes,
this.
yes.
Okay. So that gives us a grand total then, again, for the coming year of $355,000. Do we have any other business you need brought up?
I do, but Gloria, can you make sure that the Herald in Winsted knows about the fact that we didn't raise anything
Okay.
for levies?
They usually call, but,
If they don't, would you please do that?
okay.
We are fortunate enough to have our commissioner here at the annual meeting, and I do have a question for him, and he may have some other for us, but could you enlighten the people here as to what's happening with a culvert that's costing some township $190,000, and my understanding it's a county ditch?
That's County Ditch 10, and you're cutting right to the chase here, but that's okay. Mike Ketchmark, County Commissioner, District 5, most everybody here knows me, but for those that are zooming in here, good to be with you, and thanks for the time tonight. So that the ditch project is County Ditch 10. That's going from Lake Ann and goes west, northwest. It's about 12 miles. And this was a project that was in the works for about 4 years. And it covered the ditch cleaning, tree removal, and culvert replacement, and in some cases changing the height according to an engineer group that was hired by Wright County that did the complete elevation and slopes and slants of the whole project. The project, there wasn't one culvert that cost $100 and some thousand. You might be referring to Victor Township was responsible for 6 culverts to either change the height and or replace along County Road, County Ditch 10. And the Wright County Highway Department was responsible for changing the height, and I don't know if they had to replace any of theirs either, but theirs cost $315,000 to do their culvert adjustments. And Victor, I can't quote, it was, I think, in the area of $150,000 to do these 6. The main one, the most expensive, was these 2 8-foot box culverts at Ingram Avenue that maybe a lot of you know where that's at. That's right near the access to Lake Ann. And with that one, it's not replaced, it's lower, the 2 of them, according to what the engineers came up with for the plan. So, is that, you want to go into it further, or?
I started out, I had no idea if it was one culvert or a whole bunch, but my concern from a township standpoint is how could all of a sudden a ditch be lowered by, my rumors are, and I have no facts, is 3.5 feet. There's things like DNR and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. You can't move things around.
Well, and of course, this was all decided and measured before I came in.
Oh, I'm not blaming you.
No, I'm just to tell you where I'm at and how far I was following the process. So this thing is like $1.4 million for the whole project, but the DNR and all the necessary entities were involved and consulted and approved of the project. And the description of the reasoning for the change in the culvert heights is that's the legal place for them to be. And that was approved by all the entities that had to be involved were involved. And so there really isn't any protest from the DNR or anybody else. We just had the last meeting 2 days ago on Howard Lake. There was called a pre-con meeting where all contractors showed up and the people living along the ditch showed up, and they gave an update and time frame and all that on it too. But I've talked to Victor Township and the elected officials there, and I asked the one, are you specifically satisfied with what's going on? And he said, yes, I am, Mike. And that's what I want to keep the communication between me and the township board, the elected officials. I think that's where it should be, rather than people that are chiming in that aren't the elected officials. I don't think that's the way the process should work. So I don't know where the rumors or stories came from, but I've talked to the township board, and yeah, I wish the communication would have been better on this, Gene, but I'm working on that going forward. Because the stories that I heard about how this happened and over 4 years, it could have been better. I'll be the first to admit it. I told the people of the township, and I told the people of Wright County. So what I've done now is going forward on that is there's going to be a letter going out to cities and townships to just give a little background on where we're at, because I think we learned a lot from that ditch dam project. So if you're thinking about replacing or adjusting culverts on county ditches, you contact the ditch authority, which is required, and then that gets them in the loop so that you're not surprised by these kinds of things later down the road. So that's going to be coming, and this isn't the last county ditch project. It's more like the first big one. So I want to improve the communication going forward.
Thank you.
Anything else on ditches before I move to 2 other pending things? And I'm here more or less to listen on a couple of these things, but I don't know if you're following the solar business, solar farms. We voted to have a cease and desist on new permits for solar farms here until we ironed out some issues that have come up over the last 5 years, mainly with weed control, the water mitigation where land is altered and there's water running where it shouldn't, where it didn't before. There's a tile that's broke intentionally or unintentionally that maybe doesn't show up right away. And there's a security deposit, I'll call it, that these solar companies have to put up front for what they call a decommissioning cost at the end of 25 or 30 years. And that means the cleanup and removal and the restoration of the land to the way it was before they had the solar farm there. So what was happening is these solar companies were proposing very low amounts to do this. So what we had a meeting on a week or so ago, the solar companies came forward and they came up with a cost of $75,000 that it would cost to pick up 1 megawatt solar field. And the county, our attorney came up with an estimate from a company of about about $106,000 to clean up one of these sites. There's a difference there, and then we've got this extra pot of money, I'll call it, for maintaining the site. If the owners don't do what they're supposed to with the weeds and water and landscape, then we can access that fund. It's a line of credit or cash is what we're looking for. So we can take care of it and send in a lawn service, deal with the weeds, deal with the water if that's a problem, so that it's not a problem for the landowner or the people around it. That's what we're looking for. So I call bike construction because a lot of projects you call more than two people, two estimates. Bike gave me a price of $680,000. Big difference. So what could happen at the end of 30 years if you're into the business is you're the solar company, you call someone, hey, this has to be cleaned up. What do you charge me? Because keep in mind, the county will have $105,000, let's say $150,000. In case they walk away, go bankrupt, landowner's deceased, and the property's abandoned, and we don't want this left to Wright County to clean up at Wright County's expense. So the solar company could get a price of $500,000, but they have $100,000 legally in the bank for this. So a smart business decision would say, good luck to you, you got $100,000, and then the property owner might find out that 5-acre cleanup costs $500,000-$600,000. They might say, you can have it, and then Wright County is stuck with it. That's my opinion as to how this could play out. So any thoughts or comments or interests as we're going forward? We're trying to set up these rules that's going to best benefit Wright County and the landowners and the people living around these solar fields. So any thoughts on the figures that you think we should move more towards that $600,000 or stay down lower and hope for the best in 25 to 30 years, which is all speculation because there's hazardous material. I'm trying to get a material list, but allegedly copper, nickel, arsenic, lead, any number of things could be in the panels that change from the old panels to the new panels. So the solar companies are trying to focus on resell, recycle, and reuse. But in 25 years, you think you'd buy a 25-year-old TV and wheel it into your living room? And these solar panels might be the size of a cell phone in 25 years, and I don't know what would you do with those panels then. But any thoughts on it?
Well, I agree. You got to look out for the county and the residents. So I don't think the 105 is enough. So I think you should have more banked up because those solar companies, like you said, they could go bankrupt, and I could see that happening very easily.
Isn't that 105 set in stone as of the charge for putting it in when they assessed the people got in on that as a co-op or something?
No, we're revisiting. That's open-ended now.
Okay.
And that's what it's been. It's been kind of a case by case where the solar companies made a proposal, and some of them have been well under 100,000. So that's one thing that drew attention to this. But there's something called a developer's agreement, which would be easier to change that figure as time goes by because the figure could change. That would be easier to change than an ordinance that's more set in stone. There's way more red tape involved in changing an ordinance than a developer's agreement. But I guess the main thing is if you think we're on the right track by going higher or staying lower for the future. And if you like the idea of having the secure money, the solar companies want this, let's say $20,000 to maintain the site. They want it to expire in 2 or 4 years. But we all know thistles and weeds keep growing beyond 4 years, and you might not see a broken tile for how many years, depending on the amount of rain and all that. So if you don't have them be accountable after 4 years, then who's going to maintain this?
No, 4 years is nowhere near long enough.
Well, no, I mean, why not have it till the end of the
Right.
term?
Right.
Any other thoughts on that? Otherwise, I'll move on to the other.
Couldn't that be amended every 4 years? Like you said, you could amend the 105,000?
Well, I don't know what the point of amending would be if we agree that these problems could start day one or start in 25 years.
Get a bid from Vite, how much is it gonna cost you to clean up?
Oh, the main
things up
cleanup.
for 4 years. I thought that's what the change the 105 accordingly.
Well, you could under the, that's what I was talking about, it's easier to change a developer's agreement than an ordinance, because that whole process of changing the ordinance is time consuming and public hearings and all that. But I guess the main thing is that amount, because I think, I wanna make the case for the taxpayers and citizens, especially groups like this that live in a township where these farms are going up near you or on your property, and what the thought is. But sounds like you would lean more towards the higher end than potentially selling ourselves short and having that maintenance fee deposit stand up till the end of the lease. All right, next thing, dental clinic. The board, before I got on, voted in one of the new buildings at the county government center that's going up on the north side of Buffalo, to have a dental clinic for the underinsured, uninsured people to get dental care. There's one figure of 1.4 million. There's supposedly a grant that's available for part of that. I don't know how much the rest is gonna be. But this process started in October, and we found out today that there's been about 10 meetings between the dental clinic that was gonna occupy it and the architect. So the county wanted the architect that's building the government center to move along and build the dental clinic as long as they were there, all the contractors. Well, the dental clinic doesn't like that idea because the architect doesn't have the experience in building dental clinics. So where you're gonna hook up the laughing gas hoses and hold the toothbrushes and all that. So we learned today that after 10 meetings, there's been zero progress in this project. So, in other words, these contractors are ready to pull out of the new building, so we're gonna lose that. But I'm wondering, what's your thought now? We got 2 new commissioners on, and we got no progress in this dental clinic. Do you think it's a good use of 6,000 square feet in this building for this dental clinic that's set up this way? Or is there should we take another look and try for other proposals with the space?
So you have the space already, right? I mean,
The space is within the building, but is there other things that we could look at to occupy that? I asked the clinic, or somebody else asked, what money are you bringing to this, if any? Well, we're good at fundraising, they said. I guess that's the case with most of these clinics because they're running on a shoestring budget with the people that they're helping out. So that's pretty consistent. But any thoughts on
other uses,
other options, uses,
daycares?
Mike,
proposals?
behind you.
Mike, I have a question. Is this clinic just for people that can't afford it, or is it open to anybody?
Best I can tell, it's uninsured, low insured, or people on state aid.
I assume that it's been looked at, that it would be cheaper for the county to have a facility than to say, okay, go to your local dentist and get it taken care of.
Every local dentist doesn't offer the service to these clients. That's why it's a rare facility. And my understanding is there's one in Robbinsdale, there's one in Wilmer, so there are other existing. And I think there might be 1 or 2 others in government centers in Minnesota. But I'm looking at Wright County's and our government center, and it's a public building, public paid for, so I'm looking for feedback.
So would that generate any money for the county to have it?
I asked, 5 months into this, I asked, what's the contract and what's the rate that these people would pay for a lease or a rental agreement? Well, one commissioner that was in on voting said he thought it was a 15-year lease, and the other one said he thought it was 5 years, and nobody had any idea what was gonna be charged for rent or leasing. So we're literally at square one, which I think that's why I wanna have the conversation, because everything's up in the air right now.
Is there a precedence for having the government involved in dental work besides the state pays for it through Medicaid?
That's
And
a
there
good-
are dentists that do that kind of work, and you're bringing that into Wright County, and is that something that's advantageous for Wright County residents or not? And seeing as we're in Woodland Township, you guys are way somewhere else. Woodland doesn't I'm just saying, when you do something and you do Buffalo and North, Waverly, Wright County is, yeah, we're in the county, but do our people access it? Do Woodland Township people think that that's a place that they're gonna do?
Well, that's why I'm
I
here.
don't know,
That's why I'm here to hear
I'm
from you. That's it.
You have to be on Medicaid to know where your dental facilities would accept what you have.
And what I found,
And that's what I mean.
like I said, is Robbinsdale, Wilmer, so there are places out there. My understanding is this is not a mandated thing, that because obviously, I think there's only maybe 2 others in the state that have it in their government center. So that's why I'm here to give, I mean, my deal is to be a good listening ear and a voice for the people. So you spill it out here and I'll work with it. That's it.
So when this building was designed at this size, was this dental thing already in place? Is that why they built it that size for this?
Yeah, they got the 6,000 square feet for that. That's the group before I came in. But now there's, like I said, 2 new commissioners. There's really 0 progress in it. So, you know, what else could we do? We're going to have 800 county employees in those buildings up there. And we're going to have the public coming and going for their different things. Is there an option for a cafeteria per se that employees could use and the public could use? And you would charge a few bucks for food? You know, that's just something else just to kind of get your mind thinking of something else.
I mean, you know, other options like I know there's a couple daycares in Buffalo already, but like a daycare center for employees that work there, something to that end. You know, obviously you know, we would charge, but you know, just a thought.
I like that idea, Dan.
So those of you that are into square feet, Ken working at Litfin, 6,000 is what, like an 80 by 80 building or equivalent to? So real close. So
How big is this building?
how big is the shop?
One's at 70 by 120,
So that's
just the shop, or from.
That's 14,000. Yeah, it's hard to tell with this building. Because it's not square, it's added onto.
Well, anything else? Otherwise, I don't have anything unless you got questions on
Yeah.
anything whatsoever.
I've come to the conclusion you got dentist problems and we got recycling problems. Other than that, things are going good, huh?
So one thing I'll mention is if you want to keep up with what the commissioners are doing, there's an option of going to the board meetings on Tuesday at 9 a.m. or you can watch them streamed on YouTube after the fact. But you really should take notes so you know what's going on up there. Don't always believe what the paper has. The best is to listen live up there. And there's more people watching. There's more people going to the meetings. You can still go. And like I was talking about last year, the constituents wanted some evening meetings for those that work all day. You don't want to take a vacation day to go to a board meeting if you got something to say, and watching it on YouTube the next day doesn't do you any good. So I brought that up the first meeting, and the 3 commissioners that have been up there had their own reasons to say no. One of them they like to use is staff overtime. But me, having worked up there for almost 28 years, I could look around the room and point out that most everybody in there is salary, and they don't get overtime. So you got, but that sounds good to the public, right? But you got a minute taker that's hourly, that can, because of technology, type the minutes the next day from a climate-controlled cubicle. So the public wasn't happy when they saw the response, and I'm still going to be revisiting that. But just something else that I'm working on. Okay?
Mike, I have one other thing, and it's just that you have this in the back of your mind. To the best of my knowledge, the state legislature is working and trying to get a bill through that changes the law on county ditches. Because as you know, the county ditch now, where it goes through whether it's township, county, state, or U.S. road, the road authority has to pay for the culvert. The theory is, wait a minute here, this is a county ditch. The people along this ditch get the benefit. The township, the county, the state, or the U.S. government don't get any benefit out of it. So they're thinking about changing the law that it's not the responsibility of the road authority, but it is the responsibility of the ditch authority to pay for it. And that came up about 3 weeks ago. But I have to be honest, I have not followed up on it. But
Good to know, I'll follow up on that. I've heard this argument made that the road authority is a benefiter of that culvert because the road's not gonna wash away because the culvert's there. And besides, right where that culvert is, the road frontage on either side is considered benefiting area also because that's a measurement that's used because, again, the water is flowing through that culvert and not gonna erode the road. But I'm just saying how it is now. I don't know about that, Gene, but we'll keep an eye on that.
Through the county association of counties, I think there should be some layer in that should be aware of this happening down there.
Well, I'm in touch with the ditch drainage coordinator here on almost a daily basis.
Oh, well, just ask him.
Yeah, that's good to know though, because I like to keep up on those things, and that's why I'm here, to listen as much as anything. All right?
Well, we appreciate you coming to our meeting.
No, it's great. I'm glad we could be live and not just Gloria and I in the room here. Or whatever is involved. But otherwise, you can get a hold of me anytime if you want me to come back or just one-on-one issue or whatever. But it is a full-time job. Don't let anyone kid you. I'm up there most days, all day. And you learn a lot. You can do a lot armed with a telephone at the desk. And I've resolved a lot of things in 6-7 weeks, and I've yet to do a report, like I've done thousands before that for resolving things. Mm-hmm. So I don't miss that with the new position here. But thanks again.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Do I need to make a motion, Gloria?
Well, we need to set next year's meeting,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
and I
What
need
day do you want?
March 8th, 2022 at 8:05 p.m.
I so move.
Okay,
Second out there?
Ken.
Ken did. Okay, and
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
then I have the election results are 19 people voted today. Dan Demyan received 19 votes for supervisors, 3-year term. Treasurer, there were 18 for Paula Leving and then 1 blank. So Paula Leving is the new treasurer. And I think that's it, unless somebody else.
Anybody got anything else for parting shot here?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been made to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Adjourned.
Thank you.
Anything else picking up your campaign signs or not?
Yeah, it's going to be a long process.
Good job, Dale. Thank you.